So when someone asks how I am, I usually answer, I'm fine, right? Don't we all? When in fact, I'm not fine, and neither are you. What we are is in denial. Yet even in our denial, we intuitively recognize that all is not well. All is far from well, because we know we are wounded. And if you look at the back rows, it's a little more crowded here today because we are at war. And I wonder if you know this about me. Way back when I was a young man in the Air Force with lots of hair, way back, they decided to send young Captain McMahon to training to become a nuclear missile launch control officer. So you've trusted me before. Nuclear missiles are perhaps the worst weapon ever created by mankind. And the first 3 days of training were spent watching videos of the effects of nuclear weapons, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki and others. At the end of the training, they asked us if we would individually be willing to unleash that kind of horror on our fellow human beings if ordered to do so. I signed the letter, but I signed knowing that it was me doing it, not the order to do so. I was there because I was willing to be complicit in the horror of nuclear war. And then we hear, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." And I mention this because of the struggle that I went through back then, and maybe save you some struggle. I tried to justify it. I could not. If you came here today looking for justification in taking the life or lives of other human beings and think that it is somehow involved with the teachings of Jesus Christ, you will not find it. War is terrible. There is no bright side to it. Don't try to justify it, and you will be better off. We need to, instead of trying to justify, we need to stick together somehow. We need to come together and pray. Pray for peace, pray for the combatants, pray for the innocents, and pray for the dead. We are all wounded by this. And we've all been wounded by this and everything else that we have struggled with in our lives. And some of the wounds are shallow and others deep. Some are old and familiar, and others, like this perhaps, are fresh and raw. The question is not whether you have wounds in life, but rather what do you do to try to find a solution? And you can look to yourself or some other person to handle your problems, or you can look to God to handle your problems. And today we're looking at the step that we take after we make the acknowledgement that I need healing and I need Jesus to do that. And we read that Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And I imagine that Jesus always had lots of people around, like an entourage, crowds of curious celebrity seekers, his many followers, dozens of disciples, and then the 12 apostles. And within the 12, he had a very special relationship with these three, Peter, James, and John. And while they are praying, he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah, the law and the prophets, appeared to them, conversing with him. We know that we know this, right? Jesus was fully human and fully divine. but his divinity was ordinarily hidden to this point. And in this moment, he is transfigured and his divinity shines through his humanity, where those present could see it. It must have been incredible. He appears then with Moses and Elijah, and then this voice. This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased, the blessing of the Father, and then the lesson for us. Listen to him. I imagine that it was not hard for Peter, James, and John to believe in that moment. And sure enough, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Rise and do not be afraid." And when the disciples raised their eyes, they saw no one else but Jesus alone. No more wondrous signs or voices. Jesus again looks like their friend from Nazareth. So what did they do? What do you do after your mountaintop experience? Why do you have a mountaintop experience? Because eventually we have to leave the mountaintop, right, and come down. Sometimes God uses those experiences in our faith lives to strengthen and encourage us in our faith and give us fuel to keep going through difficult times when we're heading into some special challenge. It's like it was written before this happened, and it means so much to hear it now. The Transfiguration helped encourage Peter, James, and John, especially because their faith was about to be shaken through his crucifixion and death, which is when Jesus commanded them, "Do not tell the vision to anyone until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." They never really understood what he was talking about. They had him pegged as somebody else. They didn't comprehend when Jesus told them about his coming death and resurrection. Only after Jesus rose from the dead on Easter Sunday did they really understand the big picture that we understand now. But before that, the Transfiguration shows us the connection between Christ's humiliation and suffering on the cross and his glory. It foreshadows his passion and his resurrection. And interesting too, in both cases, he climbs a mountain. He climbs the mountains with Peter, James, and John to join him. He's lifted up between two men, either Moses and Elijah at his transfiguration, or the two thieves, the criminals, right, at his crucifixion. And there's also differences. The Transfiguration is all about light, crucifixion, darkness. Transfiguration, his clothes became dazzling white. And at Calvary, he's stripped of his clothes and only covered in his own blood and sweat. The Transfiguration shows his hidden glory, while at his passion, he is publicly humiliated. These events contrast dramatically and underscore a basic tenet of our faith, that Jesus willingly lays down his life for our salvation. If he does not die, we cannot live. If he is not wounded, we cannot be healed. So he is our wounded healer. He feels the mental anguish of knowing that he would suffer and die, the physical pain as nails are driven into his hands and feet, and the emotional distress of being abandoned by his friends and followers where everyone ran. And most of all, the spiritual pain of suffering for our collective sin and our individual sins. He is uniquely qualified to offer wisdom and direction because he has experienced hurt and heartache just like us and overcame them and death itself through his resurrection. Listen to him. and be healed. Your wounds are unique, unlike anyone else's. They developed under unique circumstances, that being your life, and your healing will be entirely unique to you. Real healing, and it comes through our individual relationship with Jesus. If we would just listen to him. He is not some anonymous, impersonal force, good luck charm, reason for justification, genie in a bottle, insurance policy, last resort, like when I was taking tests in the 8th grade. He is a person, one who is human and divine. As a human, he knows what you are going through, and the best part, as God, as divinity, Jesus can do something about it, about what you are going through. A person who wants to grow in intimacy with you and wants to strengthen his relationship with you by healing you and bringing you to wholeness.